In her book, she says the White House was broken. This after 2 years along a president who wasn't housebroken. But she only realized this after she stopped getting paid to defend it. But like Jake Tapper's book, it's a new genre of Biden tell-alls that should be subtitled, "I had no idea because I'm severely retarded."
They said Karine Jean-Pierre was untouchable with her binder and polished smile, until Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly turned that press room into a comedy roast. Gutfeld launched jokes faster than she could flip pages, while Megyn cut through her spin like a buzzsaw on Red Bull. Karine? She blinked like someone just asked a real question, unscripted, raw, and totally off teleprompter. That calm, rehearsed act? Gone. What did they say that melted her talking points? Let's just say it wasn't a press briefing, it was a live takedown, and Karine never saw it coming.
Why don't you talk to the Megyn Kellys of the world, who have literally voted until this last election, which put me over the edge on voting more for Republicans. But literally now I voted in 9 presidential elections. God, I'm getting old. And I voted, it was 4 and 4. 4 Dems, 4 Republican votes up until I voted for Trump again this last time. So it was 5, now 5 Republicans, 4 Dems. I've been a registered Democrat, I've been a registered Republican, and now I've been a registered independent for 17 years. That's what an actual political independent looks like. Not like somebody who worked for 2 Democrat administrations until they got the stank of desperation all over them, and she ran for the hills trying to pretend she knows what independence is.
If sarcasm were an Olympic sport, Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly would be standing on the podium with gold medals. And this week, their chosen target was none other than Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary who treats every question like it's a live grenade, pull the pin, toss it back, and pray someone else dives on it. But Gutfeld and Megyn weren't playing catch. They came armed. And Karine, she didn't even have her helmet on.
All those applications you gotta fill out.
That's the thing.
What, you think I meant vaginas?
Ew.
Right.
Disgusting people. But now now everyone says she's incompetent and lazy. You know, after they called me racist for saying that. That's not why I'm racist.
Nope.
Let's be real. Karina's press briefings have become more performance art than public service, where dodging questions is treated like some high-concept masterpiece. And Gutfeld, he wasn't having it. The undisputed king of cable comedy masked as commentary tore the whole act apart. He treated her latest briefing like an open mic night at a collapsing comedy club, except no one was laughing with her, only at her over and over, and louder each time.
But really, they're just jealous. These colleagues also played along with the hoax, saying that Joe was doing 75 one-arm push-ups while finishing the New York Times crossword puzzle all before breakfast. They're just pissed she beat them to the publisher's office and to the bank. I expect to see more of these books because of the lifeboats these rats will use to try and escape the shipwreck of the past 4 years. So KJP is now an independent because apparently pretending to be apolitical sells better than admitting your last job was gaslighting America.
Greg's monologue wasn't just mockery, it was a demolition. He turned Karine into a tragic comic figure, stumbling through the wreckage of logic like someone trying to explain calculus while being attacked by bees. That's her podium energy, frantic, confused, and always one sentence from collapse. And Greg, he cranked the volume, threw on a fedora labeled Sarcasm CEO, and doused the whole circus in gasoline. It wasn't just a burn, it was a full-blown inferno.
That's how bad the stink is when one of its worst offenders is fleeing this rancid armpit called the Democrat Party. So should we buy her book? Well, only if your family and friends have a sense of humor. It'll make a great gag gift. You know, like fake dog or rubber vomit. Only the stench here, it's real.
Meanwhile, Megyn Kelly brought her signature move, smiling sweetly while delivering 1,000 razor-sharp verbal paper cuts. If Greg came in swinging a sledgehammer, Megyn showed up with a scalpel and a microscope, zeroing in on every ridiculous line Karine tried to pass off as serious commentary. It wasn't just critique, it was precision humiliation, delivered with clinical grace.
Put a book, and her fans are already sharpening their crayons. And it's just what we need, a tell-all from the woman who spent 2 years telling everyone that Joe just had a cold and not rigor mortis. If the title hadn't already been taken, it should be called Art of the Steal. KJP also says she's leaving the Democratic Party. I say God bless her. Not many people have the patience to wait in a line that long.
Megyn didn't just critique Karine, she dissected her like a pathologist finding 3 livers in a frog. Every moment of that press briefing was exposed with surgical precision. She didn't just call out the incompetence, she showcased the absurdity like a political remake of Clueless. And Karine, she nailed the lead role. But what really sent Greg Gutfeld spiraling like a toddler on espresso was Karine's bizarre attempt to explain inflation like it was a trending TikTok challenge. Greg, nearly choking back laughter, broke into what he dubbed the press secretary's guide to financial fiction, a delusional fantasy where skyrocketing prices mean economic strength and a shrinking dollar is just on a summer diet. That's when the gloves came off. Gutfeld built an entire segment parodying her legendary skill at saying absolutely nothing. He mimicked her dramatic pauses, circular logic, and uncanny talent for referencing things that had nothing to do with the actual question. As if randomness was a mic drop, he wrapped it all up by awarding her the crown for being the only human alive who can turn a simple yes or no into a 15-minute monologue that leaves the room more confused than when it started.
Karine Jean-Pierre reinventing herself as an independent. This from, it's everywhere, but this is just from the New York Post write-up, that she claims she's no longer a Democrat. She's coming out with a book, a memoir, hyping, says the New York Post, a quote, broken Biden administration. They go on to say that it's a tell-all she's working on now, and it's going to be a look inside. Independent is the name of it. A look inside a broken White House, outside the party lines, due in October. Hachette, which is publishing it, says Jean-Pierre did not come to her decision to be an independent lightly.
Megyn, as always, took the high IQ kill shot. Her takedown felt like an etiquette teacher explaining why someone slurping soup with a fork should be permanently banned from polite society. She didn't rant. She rolled out a bullet point roast of Karine's greatest hits. And if bullet points could roll their eyes, these were doing backflips. From the iconic "let me circle back" to the mythical "the president has been clear," Megyn highlighted every empty phrase that's become less of a statement and more of a cosmic joke. By the end, Karine had metaphorically tripped over her own binder and landed face first into public mockery. No quotes needed. Megyn's tone said it all. Half disappointed teacher, half savage comic, and all precision. If competence were cash, Karine was bankrupt, and Megyn was there to shut the lights off. Greg wasn't done either. He closed the show by mimicking Karine's briefing style, complete with awkward pauses and off-topic rambling, turning it into the political equivalent of a bad soap opera. The only winner? The audience, who finally got some real entertainment.
In this book, she may focus her ire on figures aside from Biden. Quote, she has served 2 American presidents, Obama and Biden. She takes us through the 3 weeks that led to Biden's abandoning his bid for a second term and the betrayal by the Democrat Party that led to his decision. The tease goes, and she's going to regale us with a hard-hitting yet hopeful critique defining what it means to be part of the growing percentage of our fractured electorate that is independent, why it can be worthwhile to carve a political space more loyal to personal beliefs than a party affiliation, and what questions you need to ask yourself to determine where you fit politically. You've got to be kidding me.
Let's cut through the noise. Greg didn't just watch Karina's briefing. He translated the political mumbo jumbo into plain, savage English. When she said, "We're prioritizing the American people," Greg's decoder ring read, "We're expertly avoiding any real accountability." Meanwhile, Megyn spotlighted Karine's uncanny skill for linking 5 random talking points that lead absolutely nowhere, like trying to build IKEA furniture with Pig Latin instructions and half the screws swapped for bananas. Still, Karine marches on, unfazed, delivering briefing after briefing with the enthusiasm of someone blissfully detached from reality. Even her wardrobe didn't escape critique. Greg joked her blazer choices looked like they came from a dystopian librarian crossed with a futuristic DMV manager. Megyn just raised an eyebrow and said, "When your outfit is more put together than your message, it's time to rethink everything." Then Greg whipped out a homemade MS Paint graph showing Karine's answer to approval ratio, a flat 0 line with the occasional blip labeled "Oops, she answered something." And that, my friends, is the real briefing takeaway.
When Republicans hate her, she's not in any position to be a connector of our 2-party system, and assuming she could be is just ego. It's so good. They're all ripping on her, some by name, saying how dumb she was, how she's a joke, and literally nobody's buying her ability to be an independent connector who somehow is going to heal the partisan breach, Stu. Back to my original point when her soundbite was playing of how those were all lies too.
Megyn served a sharp burn, comparing Karine's communication to a GPS stuck on recalculating, even when parked. She joked Karine might be the first press secretary actually lowering public understanding, an anti-information officer. Greg added Karine was reinventing smoke and mirrors with verbal jazz, so confusing even jazz musicians would be lost. Megyn said Karine's delivery sounded like memorized bullet points, robotic and off. She even hinted we might be witnessing an AI press secretary gone rogue. Greg nailed Karine's look of forced confidence mixed with panic, like realizing you left the oven on. Megyn skipped mimicry, letting silence and tea drinking do the talking, watching a slow-motion train wreck built from PowerPoints and half-baked policies.
We have to say goodbye to Karine Jean-Pierre. I'm sorry, guys, but she's going. It's like, this is the way it's gonna, it's the one sadness of Trump winning because let's face it, we're gonna miss her a little bit. Like, I mean, I kind of missed her word salads. In fact, I'll start with the word salads just so you too will be feeling the pangs that I've been feeling. Here's a little montage of some of the best / worst of Karine Jean-Pierre at the podium.
It is hard for us to keep up with this president. What I see is a strong, resolute president. We're seeing these deep fakes, these manipulated videos.
By the way, used to make beer brewed here. It is used to make the brew beer in this defilement. Oh, Earth Rider, thanks for the Great Lakes.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Greg imagined Karine running a restaurant, adopting her slow, careful tone. Once we circle back on appetizers, confirm entree alignment, and brief the sous chef coalition. By dessert, diners were gnawing menus in frustration. Nobody fed, just bloated with confusion. Megyn chimed in, picturing Karine helping a lost tourist. Directions are a social construct. Left might mean west, depending on rotation. The tourists didn't get help. They got lost in a philosophical maze with no exit. Neither raised their voice. Their tone alone demolished the scene. Greg's humor was a chainsaw at a ballet. Loud, brutal, and leaving logic shredded on the floor.
Now, she realizes she was carrying water for a man whose brain was as wet as his pants. Remember, this is the same broad who stared America in the face and said this.
Comments were made in that report about that, obviously about his memory that we don't believe lives in reality. 80's the new 40, didn't you hear? He is as sharp as ever. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith. And it's not true, right? The president wasn't wandering.
Is anyone in the White House hiding information about the president's health or his ability to do the job day to day?
Absolutely not. He's the president of the United States. I can't even keep up with him.
Megyn delivered her burns like a villain, sipping champagne during a hostage negotiation. Quiet venom, razor-sharp satire, and pinpoint precision that left opponents bleeding without knowing it. Every word landed with a smirk, chilling the room and scorching egos. It was brutal, hilarious, a symphony of sarcasm by two virtuosos who tossed the script and improvised on the ruins of coherence. This wasn't about politics. It was about watching someone drown in their own nonsense, with Greg and Megyn holding popcorn and mic. Greg even wondered if Karina's briefings were secret performance art, designed not to communicate but to confuse. Megyn agreed, guessing Karine might be auditioning for bureaucratic absurdism, a new TV genre like a Veep without jokes, self-awareness, or endings, just endless loops of baffling logic.
Sciences. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I just don't have anything. I don't have anything. We don't have anything.
Okay, we could have kept going because let's not forget when he thought that the dead congresswoman was alive. Where's Jackie? She was just top of mind. She was top of mind. That's what Karine Jean-Pierre tried to tell us. And the obsessive note reading, right? She could not do the job without reading for the first 2 years of it. She got a little better on that towards the end.
The 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 writers didn't hold back either. Greg's crew dubbed Karine's briefing a masterclass in evasive rambling, while Megyn's show summed it up with a blunt "what even was that?" followed by a heavy sigh. If press briefings were an Olympic sport, Karine would be competing on the balance beam of bafflement, twisting through every question and sticking a perfect landing in total confusion. That deserves a sarcastic slow clap, no doubt. Greg wrapped his segment with a circus-themed montage of Karine Karine's greatest hits, complete with sad trombones and honking horn, ending on a freeze frame of her blinking like her teleprompter just crashed. Megyn raised one eyebrow and deadpan. This is who's supposed to keep the American people informed. That smile she flashed, pure, bless your heart, cold and cutting. No drama, no showdown, just a dynamic duo roasting a press secretary who's turned briefings into a dizzying dance of nonsense. Greg lobbed pies, Megyn threw shade, and Karine? She just spun faster, hoping confusion looks like progress.
I mean, of course, what she's referring to, Link, is the fact that she's black and she's a lesbian. Like, this is what the left celebrates. That's her history-making role that she hopes everybody will find inspirational. Like lesbian children were growing up all over the country thinking, I'm never going to be press secretary because I'm a lesbian. I mean, it's just so, what, are we in 1950?
In the ruthless world of political commentary, this wasn't a bloodbath. It was a 5-star satire banquet, and Karine Jean-Pierre? Well, she was the unwilling guest of honor, or maybe just the main course. Greg and Megyn didn't tear her down out of spite. They did it because it was too easy, like roasting a spelling bee contestant who spells cat with a Q. It's not cruelty, it's survival instinct. By the time the segments wrapped, the audience wasn't just entertained. They were united in baffled disbelief, because if listening to a public official feels like solving a cryptic crossword while being chased by a bear, something's seriously off. But don't worry, Gutfeld and Kelly will be back, mockery primed and ready for the next round of bureaucratic beat poetry. And Karine, she'll be there too, spinning circles like it's her signature dance.